Hey everyone. So one of the things that came up the most, or certainly very regularly with the different surveys that we were doing for the mental health network, was panic attacks and people wanting help either with their own panic attacks or with people that they care about having panic attacks. So because it came up again and again and again, that's what we're going to take a look at today. You guys were absolutely the reason for this, and the inspiration behind it comes from this book here. It's called The Anatomy of Anxiety by Dr. Ellen Vora. I saw her do an interview and I absolutely had to buy the book. I'm so glad it is, I would say, the best book I have ever read on anxiety ever before, and it talks about panic attacks in there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll share my screen and we're going to talk about panic attacks and how to overcome them. And I hope that you find this really helpful. And know as well, if it isn't panic attacks that's your thing, it could be even this will help to reduce with stress. This will help to reduce anxiety. This will help. We have a whole bunch of mindful techniques that we'll go through that'll help with your breathing. So, welcome to Micro Moments of Wellness. Of course, I'm Alex. And as I stated, we're going to talk about just changing your relationship with panic attacks so that they don't have to take over the way that sometimes they can. So first of all, let's go ahead and just take a look at this picture here and arrive where you are, wherever you are sitting or standing or laying. To just imagine that you are here. You are standing or sitting in this forest. Imagining that you're breathing in whatever the air smells like here, so nice and fresh. Perhaps you can feel the coolness in the air or the warmth, whatever you imagine it to be. Perhaps you'd be in the shade or a little bit of sunshine. Imagining what the trees and the moss smell like. Just arriving into your body. And so we've talked about before the fact that even just looking at pictures of nature, if we don't have time to get out into nature, can be really good for our nervous system and to help us to calm down. So having a picture of nature on your screensaver at your computer, having it at work, having it at school, having it in your car, in your locker, whatever, can be really, really good for your nervous system and help to actually boost your immune system as well. Today, we're going to take a look at a number of different things. First of all, we're going to take an investigative look at the differences between fear, anxiety, and panic. We're going to do a number of different mindfulness tools, actually a whole bunch of them that can really help to reduce the panic attacks that people have. And we're going to take a look at the science behind these tools and how they can help with your well-being. And we're going to do this through a whole bunch of information and some guided practices, an opportunity for some self-reflection as well. How to stay connected to your soul. When something happens in the world that is wrong, don't try to move on with your life like it's right. The voice within you that says this is not okay is a direct call from the basic goodness of your spirit. Pick it up. Every time, pick it up and stay on the line until you figure out how to help. And that's what anxiety is about. That's what depression is about. That's what panic attacks are about. This is a call from our soul saying, hey, I'm not okay. And hopefully today's session will help you to figure out what we can do to help when we're getting this call. Let's take a look at the working definitions first. So fear is the sense of an imminent threat. And fear is where our flight or fight will actually kick in or freeze, depending on what we tend to kind of default to and what the situation calls for. So you're driving and the person in front of you slams on their brakes and you veer off without even a thought. That's fear. That's the fight or flight response. That's kicking in, or someone comes towards you that you don't know and you shove them without even thinking about it. That's fear, and it came out as the fight response. So it's a sense of an imminent threat, and your body just takes over for you to keep you safe the best way that it thinks it can. Anxiety is the worry of a future real or imagined threat. So it's worrying about it, that in the future, this may or may not happen. So maybe it's something that you have to deal with, But maybe it's just something that you're imagining. Oh, I hope I don't have this conversation with this person. I hope I do okay in this presentation. I hope that I pass this test, whatever it may be. So that's anxiety, worrying about something that's real or imagined that's going to come up in the future. Now, panic is the worry of a future real or imagined event, and it's on steroids. It is bigger, it is badder, it is meaner, it is scarier, it is overwhelming. And so that's the difference between fear, anxiety, and panic. And every single one of these is really uncomfortable. They're all unpleasant. And frankly, they're all quite often awful. And they all need their own interventions. Specifically, the ones that we're going to look at today, the interventions are going to help with reducing your anxiety and reducing panic attacks. So let's take a closer look at panic attacks. They are accompanied with a sudden and intense fear. And maybe you know why you're getting this intense fear, and maybe you don't. Maybe it's just coming out of nowhere. But so it's a sudden and it's a very intense and immense fear. It comes with, of course, physical reactions. And people's panic attacks are different, but often we're going to have the rapid breathing, the shallow breath, the heartbeat quickens, maybe some shaking. Perhaps you get flushed in the face or in the chest. As I said, everybody's a little bit different, but often there are some common denominators there. And often with panic attacks, there's actually no real danger. If there were real danger, your fear, your fight or flight or freeze would kick in, and it would be a different response than a panic attack. So even just knowing that if you're having a panic attack, it's that there's no real danger. That can sometimes help if we can get a hold of our thoughts, and we'll talk about different ways that we can do that. That, hey, I'm actually okay. This is just my body, and I'm going to support my body, just like we talked about in that first quote. My body is calling. I am going to pick up that call. I'm going to stay on the line, and I am going to make myself feel better. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes even just talking about stress or anxiety or panic attacks can cause us to feel a little bit stressed. And so we're going to start with a mindful exercise right away. And this one is called box breathing. Now, we've done up a picture here, and I really encourage you to follow the picture because sometimes I find box breathing really, really helpful. And I find it really relaxing and really calming. And other times, depending on how my breathing is going or how my anxiety is being handled by me, sometimes the box breathing is actually the last thing that I need. So even right now, go ahead and give it a try if it feels comfortable. And if it doesn't feel comfortable as we're doing it, please just switch to something else. Or you can just watch what's happening here. You don't have to follow along. This is just one of the many breathing techniques that we cover in our mindful moments of wellness, or micro moments of wellness. So think of it as a box. So we're going to breathe in for 4. Right? So that's that line going up is the 1, 2, 3, 4. And then holding the breath for 4 if it feels comfortable. And just count your own 4. It doesn't have to be equal. We're just kind of counting and relaxing. And then it's going to be an out breath for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then holding the breath again for 4, nice and comfortably. And if it isn't comfortable, again, if maybe your breathing is too shallow or it's too rapid or your thoughts are just too chaotic right now, then maybe box breathing isn't the best thing for you. But remember, do it on your own time. Do what feels comfortable. So if it feels comfortable, we'll practice this right now. And I'm going to show you the picture again. So it's in for 4 on your own count. Then holding for 4 on your own count. Out for 4. Feel free to really sigh. And then holding again for 4 before you start it. So I'll go through and I'm going to do one just for myself. I did too there. Kind of felt nice. So just thinking of it as a nice, gentle box, a nice breath up for 4 seconds, holding for 4, a nice breath out for 4 seconds, and holding for 4. So that is box breathing. And again, sometimes it's helpful for us and really relaxing. And I really encourage you when you do that out breath, to let your body just fall, to let your shoulders fall away from your neck, to let the belly just relax, and then make some noise if you can. I mean, yeah, okay, if you're, in transit or something, or you have someone right next to you, maybe not. Breathe. Everything you're going through right now is exactly what you need. Be calm and embrace the journey. You're in the process of becoming the ultimate version of you. So no matter what you're going through ever, if it is stress, if it is anxiety, if it is depression, if it is anger or jealousy or a panic attack, just breathe. This is all just an experience of being human. And we are all on our journey to become the best version of ourselves. Just relax into it. We don't have to take ourselves or life so seriously. And in fact, as we begin to get a little bit softer with ourselves and life, a little bit lighter, a little bit easier, and a little bit more relaxed, it becomes a lot simpler. So let's talk about what's happening when we begin to feel stress, anxiety, fear, or panic attacks. So let's look at what's actually happening in the body. So the first is literally in less than 1 second, when our brain senses that there's a threat, it kicks in, and we're often going to have thoughts that are quite chaotic. They may be angry thoughts, fearful thoughts, whatever it is. So you'll notice that all of a sudden your mind is just on fire. And often this is what actually kicks us into our panic attacks and our anxiety, is our own thoughts about what's going to happen. So again, within that 1 second, our eyes change. So the pupils become dilated. So you'll notice someone when they're really, really stressed, their pupils are huge. That's the body automatically trying to bring in more light so that we can see better. Now, not only do our pupils dilate, but our vision changes. So our vision becomes a lot more pinpoint, where we're looking only at where we're facing. So peripheral vision changes. So if you're one of those people who's always bouncing into things because you didn't see them out of your peripheral vision, maybe you need your eyes checked, or maybe you're having a little bit of a stress response. And so it actually changes our vision when it happens. The jaw becomes quite tense and clenched. So if you find at the end of the day that your jaw really hurts, your face really hurts, that could be, again, an indicator that you've had a stress response throughout the day. The throat tightens. And so with men, or males, the voice becomes more dominating, louder, lower. With women, it actually becomes more shrill, kind of as a throwback to those days where the female had to yell or scream for help. The shoulders tense up, they come automatically towards the neck. So I invite you to even check right now where your shoulders are and if you can relax them a little bit. So if you notice that your back is always tight at the end of the day, or your shoulders are always really tight or tense, again, that's that stress response kind of sneaking up on you a little bit. And this happens automatically to make us look more menacing to whoever it is that we are wanting to fight or that we are afraid of. The heart, of course, quickens because it's trying to pump that blood and get that oxygen in so that we have enough energy that we need to either run away or to fight whatever threat it is that's here. The stomach changes immediately. So anything that's not seen as being necessary to help us in this moment for danger actually has its resources pushed out elsewhere. So if you think about it, our organs, especially the stomach, the liver, all of those resources are pushed out. So this is why people, all of a sudden you may feel when you're anxious or when you're having a panic attack, like you want to throw up, or you have a brick in your stomach, or you may feel that you need to go to the bathroom right away, or people will get diarrhea if they're often stressed. That's because the body is saying, hey, we have a real emergency here. We don't have the resources to be digesting our food properly or eliminating it properly. Everybody, all hands on deck, we need you somewhere else. So if you are someone who has digestive or elimination problems, that can also sometimes be an indicator of high levels of stress. The hands will get tingly and maybe even a little bit numb. And the reason that that happens, and the feet do as well, is because if we have to fight or if we have to run, we don't want to be slowed down by any pain in the hands and feet. So sometimes you notice that your hands or feet are a little bit numb, but they just don't sense the same. This body is so amazing, right? Taking care of you all the time. The limbs become tense because think about it, if you're about to run a race or you're about to take a stance to fight, everything in the body has to become tense. So if you're someone who's tense all the time, a good, nice relaxation practice would be awesome for you. And the feet actually shrink a little bit. So in case you have to do kind of the Muhammad Ali shuffle there, they get a little bit smaller. So do you ever notice that sometimes your feet, like different shoes, will fit you differently? It could be part of the stress response. So that's what's happening in our body. And now that we know what's happening in the body, let's take a look at what we can do when we notice it. So the first thing is to just allow the panic to cycle through. It takes less than 1 second for the stress response to kick in, so we can have one scary thought. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that project. Boom, that's it. It just took that one thought, and now we have the stress response happening in our body. But guess what? Just because we want it to be over doesn't mean it's going to be over. It does actually take a little bit of time for our body to physiologically respond and calm back down. So just allow it to cycle through. No, oh, it starts really quickly, but it's going to take me a little bit. It might take a minute. It might take a little bit more than a minute for all of this excess energy, all of these resources that came to either fight or flee. They need to work their way out of the body, and it's okay. Just allow it to cycle through. And then to become grounded as well. So I invite you even right now to become grounded. So wherever you are sitting or standing, take a nice deep breath. Allow the shoulders to fall. Allow the belly to become soft. If it feels comfortable, perhaps allowing the eyes to close for just a moment or to just softly gaze on something. And becoming aware of how you are supported right now. So perhaps your feet are supported by the ground. Maybe your body is supported by a chair or a bed. Just becoming grounded, feeling that you are not floating. You're completely safe, supported, and grounded in this moment. And if your eyes were closed, then if you like, perhaps opening them, or if it feels really comfortable, maybe just keeping them closed. Oh, sometimes it feels so good to just relax and breathe. And then the third thing that we can do is just dispassionately investigate the anxiety. So we talked about this in a previous class that we did live about just that dispassionate observation of just like, okay, the list that we just went through, how many of those things do I have? Do I have the chaotic thoughts? Can I look in the mirror? Do I have a mirror available to me right now? Can I see if my pupils are dilated? Oh, yeah, I'm shaking right now. Okay, so that's all that energy that's getting ready to either fight or flee. What else is happening? How does my stomach feel right now? Does it feel tense? Does it feel like I have a brick in there? Do I feel like I have to go to the bathroom right now? What else is happening? Am I sweating anywhere? Are my palms sweating? My armpits, my forehead? So just being really dispassionate, just not getting involved in the thoughts and kind of going through, what's happening in my body right now? When we do that, it actually switches the part of the brain that's kind of taking over. So we go from the amygdala, that fight or flight part of our brain, to the prefrontal cortex that's now trying to put words to what it is that we're going through. And once we bring that prefrontal cortex back online and allow it to be in charge of what's happening, our body will automatically settle. Our nervous system will realize that we're okay right now. So when we're having a panic attack, the last thing that we want to do is actually try to arm wrestle it. The last thing we want to do is try to strong arm it and enough already. I need to calm down. I need to calm myself down. The more that we try to fight against the panic attack, the more that the panic attack wins. Instead, what we want to do is just, okay, I'm having a panic attack right now. Allow it to win. So in this picture, if we say that the person on the right, who's winning right now, that's the panic attack. Hey, take a look at the person on the left with the glasses. They're doing okay. You can actually see there's a bit of a resolve there, a powerful resolve. So not trying to fight the panic attack, but to just kind of look at it like, oh, what's happening right now? Okay. And when we give into it, ironically, it has a lot less power over us. Anxiety is nervous arousal. The secret to recovery is that once you reach a point where you really allow and accept it, it begins to fall away and discharge naturally. It's the paradox that is essential to healing anxiety. And Barry is the author of a book called Dare that is about anxiety. And that's a really great book as well. If you cannot relax, okay, allow that you cannot relax. When you allow that you cannot relax, that means you're relaxing. So to just be upset in this moment, to be stressed, to be anxious, whatever it is, and to just be okay with the fact that you can't relax right now. Okay, I'm having a hard time relaxing. And immediately, just by allowing yourself to be okay that you can't relax, you may notice that the body starts to soften a little bit. Like it just needed permission to not have to fight. Because our own thoughts of trying to fight or flee from our thoughts, from these physical reactions, just perpetuate the stress or the anxiety that we're going through. And it's the same with depression as well. As we try to fight that depression or flee from that depression, it actually just exacerbates the problem. But if we can just allow, yeah, I'm feeling depressed in this moment. I don't like it. I wish it was different, but I'm going to allow that that's how I feel right now. This is what it's like to be the human being that is me in this moment. And I allow that. And our body, our emotions, our psyche just needs permission sometimes to be human. So let's talk about allowing the moment, actually. I'll invite you to think of something that's a little bit stressful for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst and 1 being very minimal. I don't know, maybe you've got a little bit of a pain, a sliver in your finger or something. We're going to look for something really low on the scale. Because it can be hard to take in this information. If we think about something that's really high on the scale and we begin to trigger anxiety, then it's tough for us to be able to concentrate on our mindful practices and on the information that we're sharing today. So just thinking about something that's a tiny little bit stressful, and if it's helpful for you to kind of close your eyes or just rest your eyes on something as you think it. So just really stressful, just really taking a moment. Just dipping your toes in and thinking about something that's kind of stressful, very small. Once you have it in mind, Just taking some nice, deep, slow breaths. And allowing the fact that there's this thing that's a little bit stressful on your mind. Just breathing into it, giving it permission to be there, allowing it to be just as it is. Even if you want it to change, that's okay. We'll just allow it to be this way for just this moment. In this moment, you allow that thing to be true. Just let go of the burden. Let go of having to carry it or fight it. Just for a moment. Remembering to breathe. Maybe letting out some noise on the exhalation. Allow the jaw to relax. Shoulders to fall. The chest and the belly to soften. Bringing a little bit more oxygen to the body. If it feels comfortable, allowing the eyes to open. Or perhaps if you feel more comfortable where you are, just pausing the video. And just breathing. Just allowing the moment. Just because we allow the moment doesn't mean that we're okay with what's happening. It doesn't mean that we don't want to change it, or that we don't wish it was different, or we wish that it hadn't happened. It doesn't mean that we're not going to wish for things to be different in the future. But for this moment, we just place that weight down, that baggage. We just allow it. And sometimes with some of these practices, it can feel like, well, what am I doing? What does this do? Like, what's the purpose of this? That's what these micro moments of wellness are all about. Is that when we practice it, we actually change the neural pathways in our brain. We change the way that we think. We begin to rewire our brains without us even knowing it. And the more that we practice allowing the moment, the better that we get at allowing the moment. And then it can get to the point where we don't even have to do it consciously anymore. We can just relax. So the more that we practice this, you may begin to notice that, oh, you're just not as stressed as you used to be, or as anxious, or the panic attacks don't come as often, or they're not as intense, or they don't last as long. Micro moments of wellness count. They add up. Alrighty. So the request for more is actually the most empowering and paradoxical move that we can make when facing a panic attack. It's a request that anxiety can't deliver. Your fear quickly subsides because the fuel that powers it, the fear of fear, has suddenly been cut off. So instead of allowing our thoughts to just take control, to actually change the way that we're looking at them and say, okay, well, what else can I handle here? You know what? Hit me, anxiety, hit me with all you got. Now, I don't suggest doing this necessarily without support, and especially not as you're first learning this technique. And again, this is the author of the book there. But where we can begin to go, do you know what? I'm okay. I'm still standing. I've had panic attacks and they're terrible. And anxiety is awful. And it feels like the worst thing that can happen, but I'm still here. I'm still standing. I've been alive and I'm going to continue to be alive. And again, this is where we begin to feel more empowered. So it's often the thoughts about the stress, the anxiety, the depression, the panic attacks that make it worse, that make it snowball. So if we notice that all of a sudden we're feeling stressed, or put whatever emotion you want to put in there. We're feeling that emotion that we don't want to feel. And then we start to have thoughts of, oh my goodness, now look what's happening. I know what's going to happen here. We begin to have these fearful thoughts, these angry thoughts, whatever it may be. It snowballs and it makes it worse and worse and worse. So if you've ever tried to fight off a panic attack, you may have noticed that that just makes the panic attack worse. So what we want to do is be a bit more constructive with what we're doing. Now that we know that it's our thoughts that are often making these situations worse, what we want to do is just change the thought patterns. And you're amazing, and you can do that. So we can become Superman, right? A hero to ourselves. And we can become grounded. As soon as we notice that those thoughts are taking hold, we can be the one to stop them, to stop that freight train in its tracks, because we have the power to do that. So the first is to just feel your body. And again, if this feels safe for you. So sometimes feeling my body is really great and it's really comforting. And other times, if my heart is pounding, then it doesn't feel good to do it. Then feel something else, feel a different part of your body. Sometimes it's even feeling the one part of your body that feels okay. So if you're having a panic attack or some other stressful emotional or physical event, is it possible to just search your body and see how your left pinky toe feels? Does it feel calm or soft? Or feeling your elbow? So is there a part of your body that you can connect with that is okay in this moment? And then as you slowly breathe, you relax the body. Are you able to invite other parts of your body to have that same ease? Are you able to imagine it easing out from that body part? Next, we can go outside and move the body. So what happens when we have that stress response is that the body pumps us through our full of cortisol and adrenaline. Well, guess what? That adrenaline needs to go somewhere. When we're shaking like crazy because of stress or because of anger or whatever it is, that's the flight or fight response. That's the adrenaline. It's amazing. Your body is incredible. It's doing exactly what it needs to do. But now that that energy has been mobilized and it's ready to go, we want to get that out of our body. We don't want that mobilized energy sitting there. Imagine that you're just like swallowing it like some type of poison. So let's go ahead and move our body. There's another session that I want to do on movement. I'm so excited. I saw this interview with this professor. I think he's at UBC or something. Anyway, soon. He absolutely inspired me to do a session on movement. So yoga, again, getting into the body. So I love to do sun salutation in the morning. You may find if you're feeling kind of stressed out, oh, child's pose would be really nice. So just getting on the ground, kind of child's pose is where you're almost, curled up in a ball, but you have your arms stretched straight out in front of you on the ground, and just feeling your neck, feeling your shoulders, allowing your arms to stretch, but be relaxed and supported on the ground. I took this amazing yoga class with this wonderful instructor, and every move that we did, it was all about like saying thank you to that body part or saying hello. So just like even moving the neck and just, hello, neck. If someone's near you, just imagining in your head moving the other way, or your back or your shoulders. Oh, good morning, shoulders. Stretching the back. Thank you, back. And it was at first, it was so silly. And it's all these, we're all these grown-ups. And it felt so silly. But then when you're doing it, it was at a retreat. When you're doing it day after day, it was like, oh, this actually feels really nice. And now I love it. So most mornings when I do my stretches, I'll say hello to my body. Or now I found I'm even doing it when I'm working out. So there's this really, really, really tough climb that we do near the end of our bike ride. And so I'll be like, oh, thank you, lungs. Oh, thank you, heart. Thank you, muscles. Look at you. And it gets your mind off of what you're dealing with. Anyway, I digress. Fresh air, getting out and getting some fresh air. And even if it's cool outside or it's really hot, like just that fresh air coming into your body, some type of sensory stimulation. So whether it is, I know this is so nerdy, but I have this bar of lavender soap next to my bed. And it was given to me, I think for Christmas from my son. But it smells so good that I don't want to use it. So sometimes at night I'll just like grab it, and it's a natural lavender, not we don't want yucky processed smells, right? So we want something that's actually natural. So a nice lavender bar that you might get at a farmer's market, or I think he got this one at Shoppers Drug Mart, but it's some type of farm fresh bar. But so, oh, that sensory stimulation could be something that you touch. So a stress ball, or maybe a water bottle, and just noticing if it's cool in your hand or warm in your hand. So some type of sensory stimulation. What we're trying to do is get out of our brain, get out of our head, and get into the body. And then this one's really cool, push and release. So if we look at Superman, so he's really stressed. He needs to save these people or whatever he needs to do. He needs to stop the train from going over the edge, whatever it is. So our body actually wants to go through push and release when we're having a stress response. So push would be that fighting against, right? So pushing to save yourself. So what you can do is just brace yourself really well on the floor and make sure you're at an angle and push at the wall, push, 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 and then let go. And maybe try doing this a few times. So make sure that you're steady on your feet and just see how that feels, because sometimes it feels really silly when we do things, but actually our nervous system is what kicks in and goes, oh, this is exactly what I needed. So it's good because it helps to get the cortisol out by pushing, right? We're actually having to use our muscles. But when it comes to kind of the unconscious part of it, our body feels like, oh, good, I was able to push against that threat. I feel like I'm okay now. So kind of like an interesting little side note here is that what's been found with people who have restless leg syndrome, which is where the legs are kicking all night long, what they found in some studies is that people who suffer from this often have childhood trauma, where something has happened to them where they wished that they could have run, but they weren't able to. They weren't able to escape the trauma. And so this is the body with that energy still in. And so the thing with trauma is that it doesn't matter how long it's been. The body doesn't know such a thing as time. It just knows, have we released this from the body or have we not? And that's where somatic experiencing can be really, really powerful. So Dr. Peter Levine, he wrote a book called Waking the Tiger, and he talks about somatic experiencing. And so many therapists do. It's just to get that out of the body as much as we can. So the next mindful practice is we're going to do discharge shaking. So I'll get you to get comfortable wherever you are sitting or standing. And if you're somewhere where there's other people around you, then I can understand that you'd probably want to do this really discreetly. So maybe, and if you can't, like if there's truly someone right beside you, then just imagining that you're shaking your body, whatever body part or body parts, as quickly or as slowly as you like, and with as much pressure as you like. Even just imagining that you're shaking, 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 imagining that you're shaking like this dog helps the brain, because the brain can't tell what's really happening and what's not happening, which is why our thoughts, having a thought of, oh my gosh, I forgot the presentation, or what if I do a terrible job on it? The brain actually thinks that that's happening, which is why the stress response kicks in. So if we think or imagine ourselves shaking or dancing or just expelling that energy, sometimes I imagine myself running, 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 running as if I'm running the entire world, and doing that until I feel like I'm okay again, and opening the eyes and noticing that, like, oh, I feel so much better. But if you're not next to someone and you don't have to just imagine it, then just beginning to kind of maybe shake your shoulders a little bit. And if it feels comfortable to close the eyes, then go ahead. And if not, then certainly leave them open. Maybe even wringing the hands if that feels okay. Shaking the rest of the body, moving it. Maybe shaking your feet or your legs. Just shake, 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 whatever feels comfortable for you, whatever feels good. And just listening to the body. That's the part of somatic experiencing, is what's happening in the body when we shake. So your discharge shaking. And I would actually love to pause right now and just shake, because that feels really good once you get started. So if you're wanting to do more, please feel free to pause this video and just shake, 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 shake. Shake as hard as you want or as soft as you want. Shake whatever part you want to, and allow whatever comes. And you may find that you want to do this for 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes. You may notice that the body all of a sudden wants to keep going. Maybe you're someone who's always fidgeting, always moving their foot, shaking their hand, whatever. That's the body already trying to dispel that energy for you. It's trying to take care of you. So here you're taking care of your body by shaking your body. And if you want, maybe listening to some music or listening to drum beats. In the book, what's it called again? The Anatomy of Anxiety. She talks about, it's called AMA, AMMA, extended version. And you can find it on YouTube. It's like 6 minutes long. I listened to it. It's a bit crazy. Maybe don't listen to the words, but just I do like to sometimes just like shake to it and see what my body wants to do. So yeah, it's called AMA Extended Mix on YouTube. And like I said, the words are a bit weird, but it has that drum beat, and just like let your body do what it wants to do. So a couple of points about this is you may notice some feelings arise when you do this discharge feeling, this discharge shaking. So you may find like all of a sudden you have an intense desire to scream. Then if you have a pillow, allow that to happen, or do it somewhere where you're not going to startle anyone, or wait until later. Like, that's that energy that's been stored in your body that wants to come out. It's actually very healthy for us to just scream into a pillow sometimes, because it's a reflection of energy from somewhere in our life, whether it's today or whether it's 50 years ago, where there was a scream that was swallowed, that was stifled, and it wants to come out. I did a class not long ago, and one of the participants shared that she was doing ecstatic dancing. So dancing, dancing, dancing. And she shared with the group, all of a sudden I burst into tears. And she said, I phoned my dance teacher and told her, and she said, oh, that's normal. And I said, well, did she tell you why it was normal? And she said, no. And I said, so I explained, it's because there's this energy in the body and the shaking can get that started. And then all of a sudden, we have these thoughts or these emotions or these sensations or these physical releases that want to come out of the body. So doing whatever feels comfortable for you at whatever rate feels comfortable for you, and remembering that if anything comes up, to get some help if you need help, whether it's through your EAP or a crisis center or a therapist, a friend, family member, whoever it may be, to get help if you need help. So our thoughts matter. And what we choose to think can actually be like garlic to that vampire, right? So our thoughts towards panic attacks, towards anxiety, towards anger, competition, jealousy, whatever it may be, can be garlic to whatever that emotion is. So it's pretty cool that we can do that just by what we choose to think. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. So this emotion is like a freight train running through us. We can hop on that train and continue to fuel it with all of our anxious or angry thoughts, or we can choose a different thought and no longer fuel that train and just give it a little bit of time. It'll slow down. If we're not feeding it with our thoughts, it doesn't have anything to move on anymore. So think of our toxic thoughts as coal going into that train. And when we stop putting the coal in, eventually that train just peters out by itself. It just stops. So let's do our next mindful practice here. This is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is a wonderful technique to do with youth. So with kids. So if you're ever, if you have children in your life or you work with children or whatever. And it's extended if you can actually write these things down, journaling. So a lot of you know that I used to do a lot of work with a lot of kids in different settings. And if we could get them to journal this, it was amazing. So 5 things that you see. So just looking around wherever you are, noting 5 things that you see right now. And so using some adjectives, what color they are, if they look smooth or rough, if they're moving or not moving. So I'll give you a moment. 5 things that you see. And 4 things that you can feel. And so this could be, your pen even, and just, I feel the smoothness of my pen, or I feel the bumpiness of it. I feel the roughness of this back of the pad of paper. I feel kind of this cotton on my shirt. So 4 things that you can feel right now. And when I see you guys next, when we do our next live session, by the way, we're going to talk about mammalian comfort techniques. I'm so excited. So one of the things that we can do with feel is if you feel your arms, but you actually move them in a downward motion, nice and slow, it calms the nervous system. Okay, 3 things that you can hear. So I am going to be quiet, and you may find it easier if you close your eyes or focus on something. So whether it's the air conditioner or something outside or a heater or whatever, I'll be quiet. Okay, and 2 things that you can smell. So it could be even if you have any hand lotion on, or your shirt. Maybe some laundry detergent you can smell in your shirt, or maybe just the air, wherever you're sitting, or if you have food nearby you, smelling that food. And one thing that you can taste. So even just tasting your mouth right now, maybe it tastes yucky if you had garlic. We had salsa last night on our vegetarian wraps. Or if you can taste your gum, if you can taste your minty toothpaste, maybe you just had a latte and you can taste that. So what you can taste, or if you have food and you wanted to take a bite and just, how would I describe this? So when I invite people to do this um, as a written exercise, it's I see a shiny red balloon. Right now, I see an orange and black butterfly on my window. So nice, taking your time, writing it out. What's really cool about writing is that it actually involves a different part of the brain that kicks out that's able to touch the unconscious. So there's some really cool studies where people are hypnotized and consciously they don't remember something, but if they're then asked to write their answer, when they write the answer out, they write the thing that they're not supposed to remember. So it's like there's this other part of you that's unconsciously paying attention, and it can be kind of let out when you're writing it. So that's why journaling can be so therapeutic for us. Alrighty, so that's our third mindful practice. So what we want to do as well when we're having any type of emotion, including panic attacks, is to just take inventory. Hey, am I doing this right? Well, let's see. Rapid breathing, check. I get an A plus on that. Right? Oh yeah, look at me. My body's working exactly how it should. Is my heart pounding? You may even want to close your eyes to feel it. Do I feel that heart pounding? Oh, yeah, I do. So going through that checklist of that green person that I showed you several slides back. Am I having all of these things? Is my body shaking? Well, I'm sitting down, my body isn't, but my hands are. I can definitely feel my hands are shaking. Am I having wild, out of control, chaotic thoughts? Yeah. And so have almost an appreciation that your body is working perfectly. You get an A plus at having this emotion right now, at having this experience right now. And so when we take inventory, it kind of lightens the mood a little bit. But again, it also shifts dominance to a part of the brain that's going to be less reactive with what's happening. So give yourself an A plus. Whatever emotion it is that you're having right now, you're doing a great job. Things are as they are. Looking out into the universe at night, we make no comparisons between right and wrong stars, nor between well and badly arranged constellations. That's Alan Watts. So can you begin to see how perfect you are, how perfect you are at being human? We're all being human is an imperfection, and we're perfect at being imperfect. So to not judge yourself as being wrong because you're having a panic attack, to not call yourself an anxious person, you're a human being who sometimes has anxiety or sometimes has abrupt anger or sometimes experiences sadness. You're not a sad person. You're a human being who sometimes experiences these things. And that's part of being human. So what we can do, as we talked about before, is we can direct our thought patterns. What do we want to think about? And we can choose anything. In so many of our practices, we've talked about how we could choose gratitude. We can choose how we're going to breathe. There's a million different things. For this one in particular, and this again comes from the book. I can't say enough about this book, and I don't know her or anything. I just read it. I have a list in my head of my top 100 books, and this for sure is one of my top 100 books. So she talks about counting backwards from 100 by sevens. So getting comfortable wherever you are. Take a nice big breath. Allowing the eyes to close if that feels comfortable for you. Starting at 100. -7 is 93. Remembering to relax and keep counting backwards by 7. I won't make you do the whole thing. Or you can hit pause and go ahead and do it. But some of them are really hard. And so you might say, what's the point of this? Well, the point of this is that we can continue to feed whatever emotion or physical experience we're having with our toxic thoughts, with more coal to continue that engine going strong, or we can direct our thoughts and choose to think of something different. You could even make a game of it. How fast can I count backwards from 100 by 7? And see if you can get faster every time. And again, the more that we practice these things, the more that we change the neural pathways, we begin to actually change the shape of our brain. We have this brain plasticity where when we do these micro moments of wellness, we reprogram these parts of ourselves to become healthier. When you have exhausted all possibilities, remember this, you haven't. And thank goodness Edison thought that way, right? And so hopefully we've covered something that may be helpful to you in your life or with any type of stressful or uncomfortable episode that you may experience, that we all experience as human beings. But if you didn't find what you were looking for or as many as you were looking for, keep going. You haven't exhausted the possibilities. There's so much out there. You just need to find what's right for you. And I know that it's out there for you. Okay, so how are we going to set you up for success with this? Well, there's a whole bunch of different things. First of all, education about sensitivities. I talk about people who are highly sensitive all the time, right? So that's according to Dr. Elaine Aron. I think she says kind of upwards of 20% of the population. I think it's possibly even quite a lot more than that, more like 30%. So knowing your own sensitivities, and just so you know, people who are highly sensitive are more likely to suffer from anxiety. Establish routines. So if you know that something works for you, keep doing it. Slow down. When you're rushing, it tells the nervous system there's an emergency here. Like, why am I rushing? And so it actually begins to start that fight or flight response. So slow down. If you're rushing around, take some nice, deep, slow breaths. That actually interrupts the neurochemicals. It's like, oh, I thought we were in a panic, but if you're slowing down, we must not be. Or if you're slowing down your breathing, we must be okay. So it interrupts some of those stressful neurochemicals. And if you're in the fast lane and you're driving, pull over into the slow lane. Take your time. Make sure you get enough sleep. I cannot stress this enough. And I know our last session was about sleep and the feedback was amazing. So thank you so much. I'm glad that you love it. I think we might touch on that again, maybe in this series, if you guys like it. Mindfulness of thoughts. We talked about how important it is to be careful what you're thinking about and to choose your thoughts. Proper diet. Holy smokes, I can't say enough about this as well. So for me, there's a certain fast food restaurant. I won't tell you which one it is. But when I eat that food, because every so often I'll forget and I'll eat it, and all of a sudden I feel so depressed. And that's not normally kind of my go-to uncomfortable emotion. My normal go-to uncomfortable emotion is usually anxiety. So depression is not something that's common for me. And then do you know what? Half an hour ago, I just had a burger at this place. That's what it is. Stay warm. When we get cold, we begin to shake. And again, that sends alarm bells off to the part of our brain that's really sensitive, the amygdala, of like, hey, why are you shaking? Uh-oh, there must be some stressful chemicals in there. So just stay warm. And if you're someone like me, maybe you're cold all the time. So I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. It is literally 30 degrees Celsius outside right now. And we don't have air conditioning in here, and I'm wearing a long sweater. So stay warm. Maybe your tee or your scarf or your warm sweaters, whatever you need. Stimulants. Yeah, I know. So I have 1 cup of tea now in the morning. So I used to have a lot more than that. But my heart would start to pound really quickly. Sometimes I'd get like aggressive thoughts. Armpits would start to sweat, even though all I'm doing is just sitting in bed. So stimulants, once that heart gets pounding again, that sets off that alarm center in your brain that, hey, something's going on here. My heart's beating really quickly. Practice your grounding techniques, a lot of which we touched on today. Let go of control, right? We don't have to be ruler of the universe all the time. Even if you just allow this moment just for 5 seconds, be patient with yourself, be kind. I can't think of anything in the world that would change our lives more than just increased self-compassion. And then look for the humor. So whenever I find myself having a hissy fit, even if it's in my mind, I imagine, I don't know if any of you have kids or you've seen this, but Dora the Explorer, there used to be this troll that was under the bridge and he'd have this little hissy fit. And every time that I'm being ridiculous, I imagine that troll having a little hissy fit in my brain. And it makes me kind of laugh at myself. And then I can say, oh, I'm being a troll. I'm being ridiculous right now. Just breathe. You're strong enough to handle your challenges, wise enough to find solutions to your problems, and capable enough to do whatever needs to be done. Believe in you. Dr. Andrew Newberg is a neuroscientist. He says the number one healthiest thing that we can do for our brains is to have faith in whatever positive, optimistic thing we need to have faith in. So if that's a religion, that's awesome. But sometimes it's just faith in yourself, faith that you'll be okay. You can handle this. All right. So wrapping up, here we are. We took a look at the difference between fear, anxiety, and panic, right? What's real and what's imagined, and that we can change our thoughts. We took a look at the science, the biology of the fear response, and how we sometimes inadvertently feed it, and how we can also starve it by being a little bit calmer and choosing what we want to do and how we want to treat ourselves physically. We took a look at a whole bunch of different techniques for reducing or eliminating, hopefully, panic attacks. And we practiced mindful box breathing, allowing the moment, discharge shaking. We did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 practice. And then we talked about directing thought patterns as well. So to all of you, have the most wonderful day today, the most wonderful week, the most amazing month, and a great year forever and ever. Where we think we need more self-discipline, we usually need more self-love. And I invite you to think about having more self-love in your life. So thanks so much for being here. I really look forward to seeing you again. Have an awesome day.